Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well, and like I said yesterday, probably over the course of the next few days, few weeks, we'll be more focused on not talking about too many more individual stocks, although I will try to get a few videos in. But while we are in this declining market, while we are in this uncertain times, and we are entering really a 2022 stock market crash, I am trying to kind of keep you guys updated with what's going on in there, my thoughts, and kind of the mentality of, if you're a long-term investor, everything will be okay, but kind of keeping you up to date on the situations that are going on. And yesterday I made this video here, I'm sure you would have watched it if you watch the channel all the time, which was talking about the situation that we're in right now, leading into the stock market crash of 2022. And I mean, just look at the video yesterday. I mean, look at the pre-market on there on this video that I made yesterday. You're talking about, 2.26%, 2.17%, 2.17%, all this down in pre-market. And then we actually looked at what the market did yesterday, and the stock market was positive. The Dow was up 0.28%, the Nasdaq was up 3.34%, the S&P was up 1.5%. And all the indications were yesterday, that we had the news of Russia that was moving into Ukraine, invading Ukraine, and the way they were doing that was so more aggressive than what everyone thought it was going to be. So, this kind of realization of, okay, this is actually happening, and the way they were going about it was so aggressive, and you think, okay, this is, one of the, for a European country, one of the most major invasions that's happened in the last few years. And the stock market then goes from being so negative in the pre-market to having a massive turnaround and end up closing green. It's absolutely bonkers. And I guess it kind of comes down to the point of view of you. For me, this is why I'm a long-term investor. I look at the long-term and plan out where stocks are going to be in 3, 4, 5 years, because as an investor, that's so much easier to do, and you have time on your side, and anything short-term, any short-term concerns, any short-term macro events, that might swing your stocks up and down in the short term. You might go up very quickly, you might go down very quickly. But in the long term, it normally works out. And this is clear evidence of that you just can't predict where the stock market is going to go. You can't time the market. I mean, who would have thought Russia would invade Ukraine? The pre-markets would be down, over 2%. And then by the end of the day, you would have, like the Dow and S&P up, S&P at 1%, Nasdaq up 3%. That's such a massive swing. And generally, I didn't predict it. I didn't see anyone out there. I saw no one that said, today we're going to have a massive swing and it'll end up closing green. It just shows you this is the unpredictability of the short term in the market, and why I generally will give my thoughts on it, but take it with a pinch of salt, because you can't predict what will happen, and why I focus on the long term. And the long term, you are more likely to be right, because that's when the share price actually will follow the financials rather than what's happening in the short term. Now, going on today's pre-market, it is currently red as well, so we'll see what happens here. I mean, anything could happen. What would be very interesting actually is if the stock market rebounds once again, and then we have another very good green day today. That would be very interesting to see if that happened. We'll see what happens there. So the stock market is currently red in pre-market again today, but obviously that was the same yesterday, and look how that closed. So we'll see how it happens today. I think it would be very interesting to see if we do have a stock market here that then once again reverses and goes green. I think that would be quite a bullish sign, to be fair. And we'll talk about what I kind of see going forward as well, and what it means for a lot of stocks, and potentially why this might be happening right now. But at the moment, what we're seeing is this Ukraine situation just getting worse and worse. And like I said previously on yesterday's video, again, I don't want to get too into the political side of it. I am a channel that focuses on, the finance side of it, the stock market side of it. But I've made my feelings very clear on yesterday's video what I think about this situation, and Russia's actions in the last few hours for sure. But yeah, obviously this situation's getting worse and worse. But like I said earlier, we're seeing the stock market kind of brush that off. And why that happens, I think that potentially the reason why this might have happened is that this might have been priced in. It might be one of those cases where buy the rumour, sell the news kind of situation, that maybe because it has been brewing for such a long, before this it was a whole week of this potentially happening, and it was day after day of this is imminent, this is going to happen any day, that eventually when it happens, now it's happened, everyone's gone, okay, we knew that was going to happen. So that might have been a situation why that has happened. I think potentially the reason why the stock market is reacting how it is doing, even though the situation obviously seems to be getting a lot worse, is that we've already basically gone through a stock market crash. You know, I'm going to use DraftKings as an example here, but you could I use DraftKings because it's a stock that I myself have a lot of money in. It's my biggest position, but you could use DraftKings as an example for many other, growth stocks, even value stocks like PayPal and, Facebook, for example. Is that so many stocks have lost so much value in the last 4 months. So even before like this Russia and Ukraine situation happened, from September, October, November time, even some stocks even before that, but certainly that time period there was when it massively started ramping up. Since that period of time, it's so many stocks out of nowhere have lost over half the value. If you take, DraftKings from September 2021, it was $62, and in that time, what's happened? Well, if we go from where it is right now, it's down 65%. It's lost over half its share price. And like I said, it's many stocks like that. It's not just DraftKings, but I'm just using this as an example here. DraftKings has lost, in that period of time, lost over half its value. Now, you look at a stock like DraftKings and go, was it a overvalued stock? It wasn't an overvalued stock. Was it cheap? No, it wasn't cheap, but it was, an okay valuation. So then you argue, well, maybe, it is near 52-week highs, maybe it has a little bit of pullback. If it has a little bit of pullback, you normally expect a stock to pull back, 20-30%. The only times you have stocks like this that, end up crashing or falling off this much is when you have a stock market crash. And that's what's generally happened to so many stocks. We've had, basically a stock market crash going on. So many stocks have lost half the value. So, maybe the situation here is that because we've already pretty much for no reason, stocks have lost over half the value, and you have now many stocks trading at the lowest valuations you've ever been at, basically going through a stock market crash, maybe because we have basically had, even before this Ukraine-Russia situation, a long period of time where stocks have crashed, they've gone to the lowest valuations they've ever been, is that there's not really that many sellers left in, really. You are getting to a lot of, core holders in a lot of these positions now. So maybe the reason why a lot of these stocks aren't going lower is because they've sold off, and now you're left with a lot of core holders in here. And maybe because in a normal market, if you were at 52-week highs, this situation would probably cause a lot of pain in the stock market. Because we've basically already gone through a crash in the next 4 or 5 months, you're already left with a lot of the hardcore holders in a lot of these positions. And, something like a DraftKings as well, this just shows how nuts, the market is at the moment and the volatility. The stock previously, over the last few months, is actually starting to be put in a bit of a rally, over the last period of time. A lot of these small caps have been bouncing up, and I've still been quite bullish on small caps. I believe a lot of them are incredibly low valuations, like DraftKings. And a stock like DraftKings came out and they reported earnings. So if we go from Thursday here, reports earnings dropped 21%. And once again, this was just, how crazy the stock market were. It dropped, 20%. The earnings were fantastic on DraftKings. I think I gave them a 9.5 out of 10 or something like that. You had an EPS beat, you had a revenue beat, the hype, the outlook up for the rest of the year, unbelievably as well. And for the stage of time that we're on quite early on, at the start of the year. And then the stock sells off 20%, and you're like, what is going on here? And then within the next kind of, week, you'd think, okay, it's only going to get worse now because of the, the Ukraine situation and everything like that. And then the stock rallies up 26%. The stock is basically where it was pre-earnings, just like that in 1 week. And it is nuts to see this sort of reaction going on in the stock market now. There's loads. I'm using DraftKings here because it's a stock that means a lot to me. But you could use this example for so many stocks out there. It's just, we're in such a weird tug-of-war volatility stock market right now, and I think these are a bit of a battle here that the bears at the moment want to carry on pushing us lower, and a few of the bulls at the moment keep coming in and going, but this stock is at this valuation, we're going to keep buying it up. So maybe that's why we're kind of seeing a bit of a rally on another point, is because we're at such low valuations, as well as that maybe this was one of the cases of, buy the rumour, or in this case, sell the rumour, and then buy the news, I guess, really. I guess that may be the situation that's going on. But yeah, just in general, it's one of those that you can't really predict, what happens in the short term. 100%. I've always said you can't predict it, don't time the market. But as generally though, there's, you look at a lot of these stocks at the moment at lowest valuations. I mean, there's some good opportunities out there for sure in the next few years to be buying up right now at the moment. But that's just kind of why I kind of think this kind of tug of war is going on. Obviously, a lot of the shorts, control the market as well at the moment. A lot of the bears are out there controlling the market. So maybe as well, a lot of the bears and shorts as well are looking at this now going, okay, maybe it's time to kind of calm down a little bit now. We've had our day. There's always going to be those few that kind of overextend. Just like if we have a bull market, there's always the people at the top of the bull market going, oh, it's going to carry on, I'm going to carry on buying, and they get stung. There's going to be the bears that get stung that, keep going, that's going to go lower, 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 and eventually it bounces. But there's going to be a few bears probably looking at this situation going, you know what, we've had our time now. Maybe it's time to just protect myself a little bit, look at where we're at, look at the valuations that we're at, and maybe that's the case. So I guess that's kind of a few points covered with what's going on at the moment. But generally, yeah, we'll see what happens, going, oh, I mean, look at that. The pre-market has just jumped since, recording this video. The pre-market's actually just jumped into the green, which is interesting. So we'll see what happens today. Obviously, it'd be very interesting to see if we do see another strong bounce today. I think maybe the only little thing, obviously, I still think that the problem is one of the biggest things is this probably won't help to the inflation concerns at the moment. That's probably one of my biggest concerns out there that maybe people aren't realising, maybe. But I would say as well that the other thing that I would potentially say would be more, once again, would be the bigger effect is where we get in a few months' time. What happens with this, Ukraine-Russia situation? Does Russia kind of take control of Ukraine, and then it goes, okay, let's look at another country. What about Poland? Do we then move into Poland? And then that's then another, tricky situation that you have there. I mean, I think if that happened, then that will obviously cause a lot more problems for in the world, but obviously in the stock market as well. Maybe that's where we're not priced in at the moment. So yeah, we'll see what happens here anyway. So interesting. We'll see what happens today. But that's probably a few of my thoughts on where we're at with the stock market and why potentially we had such a strange move yesterday in the stock market anyway. But hope you enjoyed the video. If you could and you're new, hit that like button. If you're new, subscribe. If you're on the Patreon, if you do want to join the Patreon, link's in the description. Join through there. I post 2 exclusive videos a week. There's a Discord with 600 members on there. I post when I'm buying something in real time on there. I will drop the review of the stocks that reported earnings last week in the next few hours for you guys on there, just so you know. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in a bit.